Hello, I'm Tim Montague, and this is CU 150, Episode 12. Today is June 4th, 2014, and we're here with Inscites, a cloud-based collaboration and knowledge management platform for scientists and engineers. Welcome to the show, Jason Goldman and Ben Blaiszik.
Hello. Thank you. Hello.
It's really good to have both of you here. I've known you in various capacities over the last couple of years, first at the Beckman with Ben when he was a postdoc, and then Jason when he got the company going with Ben. Now you both have migrated to Chicago and are deeply ingrained in the community at the University of Chicago. Tell us a little bit about the Ideation of Insights, what it's about, and then where you guys are in your development.
Sure, we'll start with the Ideation of Insights. So we started, and Jason and I were both researchers that were in the lab, and what we saw while we were there is what led us to develop Inscites. What we saw was that researchers had a lot of problems, one, sharing their data, but also finding their data. So how do you find data from a researcher that was in your lab even a few years ago? And it was a very difficult problem for us to solve, and we saw that every day. And so what we came up with was Inscites, and we've been pushing that ever since now. So it's been rumbling around in our heads for a few years. And only over the last year and a half or so have we really taken it to the level of how do we address this problem.
And absolutely. And so it's like if you look at it over the past year and a half, we've looked at actually speaking with professors and graduate students with a minimal viable product, our MVP, getting feedback from them, iterating on that, and then developing a beta product, which we then now have about 15 users, mostly at UIUC, and then we started with somebody internationally recently, actually starting to look at trying to really solve the problems with online collaboration for researchers.
It was really striking when I first talked to you, Jason, I think, about Inscites, how a lot of science is being done the same way that it's been done for hundreds of years now. You've got paper and pen, laboratory notebooks. Obviously, we're using a lot of digital tools and high-tech tools, but there's a breakdown. And with the advent of social media, it's clear that there are better ways to integrate communication and collaboration, and you guys have a big idea about that and how it can transform the scientific method at its core. Let's talk a little bit about that. Like, that seems like a really awesome and big idea.
Sure. Let me take that one. So one thing that we saw when we first started talking to other customers, what they were interested in was how do we collaborate with our collaborators that are in California if we're in Illinois and we only get to see them, say, twice a year. In the past, you might have been in the same building, and if you would go down to the cafeteria, you might have your data with you, and you'd sit with your fellow collaborator and you'd say, what does this mean on this graph, right? And you'd all of a sudden transfer the knowledge from this other person to you on what this actually means. And nowadays, you can't do that. You send things by email, but there's a lot of loss there. And so now what we allow is this real-time interaction. So you can interact directly on data sets with collaborators that are remote anywhere in the world. And what that allows is this water cooler type of effect where you used to be able to run into someone. Now you can run into them online in our system.
And looking at it real quick too, it's one of those things where, like we were talking with our beta testers, one is doing experimental work, another is trying to model that with simulations. And you look at it, trying to communicate, well, I made this small change to the experiment or the simulation, and actually have them be able to work together and all be on the same page very quickly is really onerous right now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Even with great tools like Google Docs and Google Hangouts, and thank you, Google, for allowing us to leverage that, your technology. But there really isn't a platform that allows real-time collaboration with all the types of data that scientists are working with. Think of spreadsheets. Like, I love Google Docs, but I use Excel mostly. And so there is no real-time collaboration. Although, I don't know, is 365 going there? And I saw a post recently about social media, and to ask that question, is your tool better than email? Which I think you've indicated is one of the major ways that people do collaborate. How is your tool so much better than the tools that scientists have today?
Absolutely, I can take that. So looking at it, right now we were talking with people that are using our product, and they have to look through these hundreds of emails to try to find that one thing where they have this comment, this observation on the data. Right now we can have something where that knowledge that's being gained, that's money's being spent on, can be easily found by storing it directly with the data. Not only that, you have all these separate things. You have Excel, you have ad hoc servers, where they're storing the files. You have all these things where trying to pull everyone together and be on the same page and make sure everything is communicated directly is very difficult. And so if you have a real-time collaboration tool where I can just jump on with someone and then actually work with them to go over the data, to analyze it, discuss it, and then save the knowledge that we've gained on the data itself, there's a real power to that. And so it's really beyond what you can talk about, like the ad hoc systems of these servers. You can talk about email. You can talk about, like, there's been stuff designed for the business process flow, like Office 365, Yammer, or Jive software, but that's all designed for business process flow and not for this kind of scientific process.
So let's talk a little bit about an actual use case. I'm a professor at a research university. I've got a cadre of students, grad students, postdocs. Time is my scarcest resource, right? Mm-hmm. And so, as you can imagine, as a manager of this, basically a small business, right? It's just an innovation engine when we're talking about scientific and engineering research. And how will I, as a user, leverage this, and how does it make me more productive?
Sure. So this is something that has come up time and time again with the people we've talked with. And what we've seen is that a lot of the professors right now are out of the loop in their research. What that means is that they don't get to see the research until it's really refined, right? So they don't get to see the research as soon as it comes off of the instrument like they used to when they were students themselves. Right. What they have to do is wait until that student brings the data to them in the form of a presentation or something like that. And so it's in a much more refined state. And a lot of the professors really want to be in the loop from the get-go so that they can, one, know where the data is coming from, so data transparency, data provenance, so you know everything about how the data was created, as well as being able to inform the way scientists or the way your students are choosing their direction. So you can do that at an earlier state before it gets too far down the line. So we actually are going to make it pretty easy for these professors to simply look at a dashboard, and they'll be able to see what research is going on within their research group. So that's actually something we're developing right now, and we think that will be very intuitive for them to work with and help get them in the loop from the very beginning.
Yeah, it's going to give them a much better finger on the pulse of what's going on with their various students and postdocs. I mean, I remember myself when I was a grad student how some students just kind of were out there in the mist, and you didn't really know if they were making progress or if what they were doing. Right. And of course, different professors have different styles. Some like to be more hands-on, some like to be more hands-off. But this, the other thing that really excites me about this is it brings lean to the scientific method, right? Where you can, as a scientist now, talk to your customer, other scientists, in a much more timely manner and iterate and modify your hypothesis much more quickly, and thus speeding up innovation in the long run. Have you guys done any kind of a back of the envelope about what kind of a difference this could make for the innovation cloud, so to speak?
So looking at it, we've talked with our beta testers. Right now, they're saying they have the ability to save 30 to 50% of their time that they're spent right now, like going through emails, looking for data, looking at trying to, like, for instance, that person that was doing experimental simulations, trying to really figure out exactly what was done, and then are we actually on the same page or not?
Yeah, so I think if 30% of their time spent on data management is a goal.
Yeah.
Okay. So a third to half of your time. I mean, that's one of the things that really stuck in my head through reading Ash Maurya's Running Lean. Time is one of our scarcest resources. and it only goes one direction, right? Money goes up and down, people go up and down, knowledge goes up and down, but time just chugs forward. And so if we can cram more into time, it really does rock our world and rock our economy ultimately.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, this is actually going to be a compounding type of effect, right? So since it's a lean feedback loop, if you're reducing that time loop 30% at the beginning, you're actually going to get a compounding effect over time as you get to do 30% more research quicker, then do 30% more research in the next unit of time, 30% more, and it builds up over time and snowballs.
So let's talk about the landscape. Are there other startups that you're aware of that are working on a breakthrough? I know that there's some established collaborative tools that are kind of clunky. I don't want to spend too much time on those, like Blackboard or something like that. But what does the landscape look like?
Yeah, so you look at it right now, a lot of the stuff that the researchers we've talked to are using are very much ad hoc. They're looking at just building their own servers and having stuff stored. They can also look at email. You talk about I've heard people trying to work on papers with Google Docs or like other collaborative tools, or Dropbox.
Basecamp, LabGuru is probably a closest competitor. But the difference between us and LabGuru is a SaaS research management tool. They're focused mostly on single labs, as well as they don't do any of the real-time aspects, and they don't have any of the collaboration on data itself. So they're more on the let's keep track of our inventory, let's figure out where to store our files, but they're not so much doing the knowledge storage on the data or the real-time collaboration.
Exactly,
and we think that's where the value is.
Absolutely, it's one of those things and really looking at it too. A lot of the stuff like the other collaborative tools are not designed for scientists. You look at like Google Docs, and it's collaborative, and it's a way to take notes for a consumer base, for the business process flow, but not really designed for capturing, as Ben was saying, with that knowledge that's been gained from the scientific process. Yeah.
Something we've actually skipped over here is that a lot of these tools are built for small data, right? And we can actually build our product for big data. So we can work with terabyte-sized data at some point down the line. It's something we're actively seeking at this point through some collaborations.
Yeah, that's essential, right? That you tap into and leverage big data. It's overwhelming the amount of data now that we can collect, and it's a question of how quickly. And I can see how having teams of scientists in real time look at stuff. There's going to be an emergent productivity, an emergent property, so to speak, that ideas and hypothesis generation is going to speed up via that collaborative process.
One thing that's actually important to note is not only is it going to speed up, but we're also not going to lose all of the stuff that we've generated in the past. So right now, a lot of the knowledge that's stored about these processes is stored in paper lab notebooks, which are unsearchable. They sit on bookshelves. So imagine now you have something that's fully searchable in the cloud forever, right? So we're not only speeding up the process, but we're also covering the back as well.
Yeah, so I remember Jason telling me about the NSF's initiative on data curation, and maybe all the agencies have this now, but that makes a lot of sense, right? That if the government is funding this research, they want to make sure that the data is curated better for perpetuity so that you can go back in 10 years and find and replicate or whatever you need to do, right? Tell us a little bit about that. How is curation, is there any uniformity for data curation today, and how does your platform aid that venture?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there are some standards that are coming out now, and I think that it's really coming to the forefront of people's attention that this is a problem. But there certainly is no broad way to curate at this point. There are certain communities that do it very well. Certain high-energy physics communities have very well-curated databases, but they tend to be very niche. And so what we're hoping to do is have something that's a little bit broader that can also have this curated ability over time. And actually, the curation is where a lot of the value is. If you throw all this scientific data into a massive repository, it ends up being worthless if you can't find what you actually want. And once you find it, you have to be confident that that data means something. So you have to understand where the data came from, how it was processed, how it was gathered, and where it's been. So that gets down to the need for a better curation process.
Right. So let's talk a little more about the your startup. Right now you're bootstrapping. You've won some awards. You've got some grants. You're pursuing some more SBIR funding. Congratulations on your second place at the COSAD competition here at the University of Illinois, which gave you a $10,000 award. That's awesome. Tell us about what your needs are and how people can learn more about your platform.
Yeah, so looking at it, right now we're looking at doing the SBIR funding. We're looking at bringing on customers for the product. We're starting to build connections so we can look at maybe raising a seed fund round maybe in the next 6 months to a year, depending on how things go. And then looking at it right now, if you want to learn more about Inscites, you can go to inscites.com. And we'll, in the description, include and send you a link to a demo video.
Yep. And that's Inscites, I-N-S-C-I-T-E, with the science spelling of Inscites. So that's cool. And it's a great website. It's very modern and easy to navigate. You are in closed beta right now. How did you identify your beta customers?
So looking at it, we did the MVP. We took it around and met with around 50 people, researchers across, and then we identified a couple people that we thought that would have a good product market fit, look at the product would be able to provide them a lot of value, and then reached out to them to see if we could start a closed beta with them using both the professor and graduate students.
And when you're preparing now for a launch sometime when and who is your target audience?
So we're looking at professors in academia, specifically chemistry, material science, mechanical engineering. We're looking to start doing an invitation-only beta in sometime in the summer, and then start to roll out maybe December, January into just all-out, just open website for people to sign up. Yep.
Cool. We've got a couple minutes here. Let's talk a little bit about Lean. I know that you've both been inspired by Lean, and the tech startup community has certainly drank that Kool-Aid, and now that's spreading to the entire small business community. I'm a huge fan of Lean myself. I work with all my clients now on the Lean canvas and customer discovery. But what's cool is you're also about Lean. Your platform is about Lean for science. But just tell me a little bit. How did you learn about Lean, and how do you apply it in your day-to-day?
Absolutely. Looking at the entrepreneurial community, we met with a bunch of people. We read Lean Startup by Eric Ries. You look at it, there was a huge power to meeting with customers. And so when we went through the I-Corps program via NSF, we were really pushed out to meeting with more customers. And once we did that, we really saw the value of going about really double-checking and making sure that the value prop to the customer is exactly what you think it is, and really you get to really see the value of the product from their standpoint.
And this actually gets to the point, coming full circle to my first statement, was Jason and I saw this problem in the lab, but is this a problem that other people have? So we got out, and like Jason said, we talked to around 30 professors, 50 people overall, and we saw that, yes, this is a repeatable problem that crosses multiple disciplines, and high-level groups in research have this problem. It wasn't just our group. It's something that is almost universal at this point.
Yeah.
Indeed. Well, good luck with the ongoing rollout of the beta. Really proud of you guys for what you're doing. This is episode 12 of CU 150. We're here with the founders of Inscites, which is a cloud-based collaboration and knowledge management platform for scientists and engineers. You can find them at inscites.com. I'm Tim Montague with the Small Business Development Center, and this has been CU 150. Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Thank